Hello creatives, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel, my name is Creativity and you are highly welcome. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a very straightforward, no side seam draped dress with freehand. I'll be making use of these 4 yards of fabric. It's a crepe fabric. Do not forget that when you're drafting anything that has to do with draping, you need a light fabric. We start by folding the entire 4 yards into 2 equal halves. We fold into 2, then we refold again on bias like you see me doing. So I've already folded on bias and I'll be cutting the front and the back bodies together. You can see it's into 4 places. This wider place will serve as the waistline. This is going to be the center front and back, as I'll be cutting both the front and back together. And this is the hem line. To determine the wideness of the waist, I'm going to multiply the cutter waist measurement by 3 plus 1 inch seam allowance so that I can have enough fabric for pleating. I'll be working with a waist measurement of 34 inches and cutter of that will give me 8.5 inches. Then 8.5 multiplied by 3, that's 25.5. The 1 inch seam allowance will make it 26.5. So therefore I'll mark my 26.5 here. For the length of the lower part of this dress, I'll be making use of 44 inches. So here is my 44 inches. From the point where I marked the 44 inches, I'm just going to draw a straight line here, which is my hem line. I'll measure this line and it must be cut off my waist measurement plus 1 inch seam allowance. Remember the waist measurement cutter is 8.5 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that will give us 9.5. So therefore I must have 9.5 here at the hem line. Here I'm trying to mark my 1 inch seam allowance so that I can connect it with a straight ruler. We're done with the drafting of the lower part of this dress. You can see it's very easy and very straightforward. We just go ahead now to cut it out. Once again, this is the waistline and this is the center front and back with 1 inch seam allowance. This is the hem line and this is the side that has no seam. Now I'm just going to open it and spread, and by the time you spread it should look like this. I'll go over now to the machine to stitch both sides together. One will serve as the center front and the other one will serve as the center back. So here I've already stitched it. I used 1 inch we left earlier to stitch it. This side is the center front, so that is why I left few inches for the slit. The next thing I'll do now is to turn it over and arrange it in such a way that the seam will be at the center front and at the back. So once I've centralized it, this is how it's going to look like. This is very easy to draft and sew. To bring out the beauty of the dress, we need to pleat the waistline so that it matches our normal waistline. I have here 49 inches and the waist measurement I'm working with is 34 inches. Therefore, I'll need to pleat it to match 17 inches for both the front and the back. From the seam line, which is the center front, I'll leave 2 inches before I start my pleat, and then I'll pleat towards this right hand side till I get to this sharp edge. I believe you understand. Likewise this side, I'll also leave 2 inches before I start my pleat, and I'll also pleat towards the left hand side. And I'll repeat the same process for the back piece. In other words, our pleat should always face the direction of our hip. I'm done pleating the waistline, and this is how it should look after pleating. Here is the slit. You can see the side has no seam line. So let me just measure this, and measuring this, I have the exact half of the waist measurement, which is 17 inches. Lo and behold, we are done with the drafting and cutting of the lower part of the dress. So moving on to draft the upper bodice, I've already laid my fabric, and this is the front and this is the back bodice with 1 inch seam allowance. So to determine the amount of fabric to be fold down for cutting, we need to use the cutter waist measurement multiplied by 2. So the cutter waist measurement I'm using here is 8.5 multiplied by 2, that gives me 17 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance, that will give us 18 inches. And for the waist length, I use 15 inches because it's going to have a band. The neck width I'm going to be using here is 3.5. So I mark 3.5 for the neck width because it's going to be a V shape. And for the shoulder measurement divided by 2, I use 7.5 inches. And for the sleeve length, I'll be making use of 12 inches, seam allowance inclusive. So I have just 12 inches left. So sorry, I didn't realize my camera stopped working. However, I used 2 inches for the back neck depth and 7 inches for the front neck depth because it's going to be a V shape. For the sleeve opening, I used 9.5 inches after sloping the shoulder. And at the waistline, I marked 17 inches for the waist measurement. That is quarter waist measurement times 2. So we can have room for pleating. So here is the sleeve opening of 9.5 inches. I got that by dividing the round sleeve measurement by 2 plus 3 inches. The next thing we need to do now is to cut the facing for the neckline of both the front and the back bodies. I mentioned it earlier that the dress is going to have a band. So here it is. I cut 2 pieces each for both the front and the back. And I used 2 inches, half inch for the seam allowance, making 2.5 inches. So these 2 pieces will be for the back, and this longer one will be for the front. Here's the upper bodies of both the front and the back. And I already went ahead to work on the neckline. I've added the facing. You can see it's looking neat. Then I also plaited the waistline. I made sure it aligned with that of the lower part of the dress. However, the pleats on the lower part of the dress is kind of big, while the one on the upper part of the dress is tiny. Here is the front bodice. You can see it's a V shape. Please note that the arrangement of the plait is the same thing with that of the lower part of the dress. One side is facing the right hand side, while the other side is facing the left hand side. The next thing now is to join the shoulder and also for the sleeve mouth. We only have to join the shoulder and the sleeve mouth. We don't need to join the side. Yeah, I totally forgot I was still going to add band before joining the lower part of the dress to the upper bodice. So that was why I told you not to join the side, so as to be able to join the band to both the upper bodies and the lower bodies. I was just in a hurry to finish my dress. So therefore I had to lose the side seam so I can properly fix the band. To fix the band to the upper bodies, watch as I place the band on the bodies. If you want a neat finish, kindly use this method. It's going to come out neat. I apply the same method to the back bodies too. And here it is after sewing. You can see this is very neat. The last thing we need to do now is to join the lower part of the dress to the upper bodies through the band. However, we have to make sure that the center part of the upper bodies and the lower part of the dress is centralized. So I'll join the side seam and then open up the zipper allowance. So I'm trying to measure if I still have my 17 inches and I have the exact waist measurement needed. I will also lose the zipper area of the lower part of the dress before I can join them together. So now I'll fold into two and mark the center of these upper bodies. The same line at the front of the lower part of the dress is the center. Therefore, I'll place it on the band and sew. Here it is. Here is our note side seam drip dress. The only thing left is to just fold and stitch the front slit and also fix the zipper. So guys, thanks so much for watching. I believe you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do not forget to click on the like button and also leave a comment.